Sure. Here's section 1 of your story, with a minimum of 700 words, titled ## Section 1, The Wedding Disaster. Ava's hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the delicate lace veil over her curls. The mirror reflected a woman who looked like she had stepped out of a bridal magazine. Ivory satin, a low back, pearl buttons, and a shy, nervous smile. But her eyes looked tired. Haunted, almost. A warning sign she tried to ignore. Cold feet, her best friend and maid of honor, Marissa, teased as she helped fix Ava's train. Ava forced a smile. Something like that. She couldn't explain it. Not exactly. It wasn't that she didn't love Brent. He was handsome, successful, and he had chosen her, a woman from modest beginnings. He was every bit the golden boy CEO he appeared to be, always perfectly styled, always perfectly composed. But something inside Ava had always felt slightly out of place, like she was a guest in her own relationship. Still, this was her wedding day, and she had chosen this. She would walk down that aisle, say her vows, and finally start the life she'd been planning for the past 2 years. The chapel doors were closed. She stood just behind them, bouquet trembling in her fingers, heart racing in her chest like a caged animal. And then confusion. A hushed voice, a blur of whispers. Marissa returned from the other side of the chapel with wide, frantic eyes. Ava, Brent isn't here. What? He's not in the groom's room. He's not anywhere. His brother is looking for him. The room tilted. Ava reached for the wall, steadying herself. He probably stepped outside, maybe to clear his head. Minutes passed, then 10, then 20. Guests were shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Her father was pacing. Her mother, tight-lipped, refused to meet her eye. The air grew thick, claustrophobic. Marissa came back again, this time pale. Ava, he left a message. I'm so sorry. She handed her a phone. A text from Brent, sent 10 minutes ago. Tell Ava I can't do this. I'm sorry. Don't let her come looking for me. The words hit like a slap. Ava's throat closed. Her chest heaved as she struggled to breathe, the room closing in on her. She dropped the phone and locked herself inside the bridal suite before anyone could follow. Her satin heels clicked violently against the tile as she paced, veil discarded on the floor, bouquet smashed in the corner. How could he? After everything? After she bent herself backward to become what he wanted? After she let him control so many parts of her life? Humiliated, heartbroken, angry, alone. And then there was a knock. Go away, she snapped, not even caring who it was. But the voice that came through the door wasn't Marissa's, or her mother's, or her father's. It was low, smooth, calm. Ava, my name's Dominic Blackwell. I don't know if you remember me, but I'm not here to make it worse. Just here to help. Silence. Dominic Blackwell? She knew that name. Everyone did. The reclusive tech millionaire who had once co-founded a startup with Brent, until things exploded in a scandal that left Brent on top and Dominic in the shadows. Why was he here? She cracked the door open, just enough to see him. Tall, sharp jawline, jet black hair, dark eyes that didn't pity her, but saw through her. He wore a black suit, tailored and elegant, but he looked like he'd rather be anywhere but here. Why are you at my wedding? She asked, voice hoarse. I didn't come for him. I came because I knew this would happen. Her brow furrowed. What? Dominic hesitated, then stepped inside, his voice softer now. I knew Brent. I knew how he operates. He's all charm and image, but when things get too real, he runs. I saw the signs. I saw how he treated you. I wasn't going to intervene unless I had to. And here we are. Ava sank onto the velvet bench, head in her hands. I can't believe he did this. Not like this. Dominic moved closer, but kept a respectful distance. Look, I don't want anything from you. I just wanted to offer you an exit. A quiet one. I have a house upstate. No press. No questions. Just the place to breathe. She stared at him. You want me to leave with you? No strings, he said. You don't know me, and you have no reason to trust me. But I saw you out there. You deserve better than a pity party and social media gossip vultures. A long silence stretched between them, and then, to her own surprise, Ava stood up, her dress crinkled with movement, tears still streaking her face, but there was a flicker of something behind her eyes now. Defiance, maybe. "Fine," she whispered. "Take me away from here." They left through a side door. She didn't even change out of her wedding dress. Let me know when you're ready for Section 2. Here is Section 2, Healing in His World, written with a minimum of 700 words, continuing from the story's earlier events. ## Section 2, Healing in His World. The drive was quiet. Ava stared out the window of Dominic's sleek black car, still in her wedding gown, still feeling like she might wake up at any second and find it was all a dream, a nightmare, more like. Her hands rested limply in her lap, her bouquet long abandoned, the sky darkened above them, thunder rumbling softly in the distance as the city lights faded behind them. Dominic said very little, but in the silence, Ava found something unexpected: peace. They drove for nearly 3 hours, winding up through forested roads until the landscape opened to reveal a sprawling estate tucked into the hills. His home was nothing like she imagined. It wasn't the cold, steel fortress she pictured a billionaire living in. It was modern, yes, but warm. Glass walls surrounded by trees, a gentle glow in every room, stone paths winding through gardens. She stepped inside, still barefoot from when she'd kicked off her heels in the car. The marble floors were cool beneath her feet. Her reflection in the glass startled her, makeup smudged, eyes swollen, dress wrinkled. Dominic watched her quietly. "There's a guest room down the hall. Fresh clothes in the closet. You can stay as long as you want." "Why are you doing this?" she asked, finally turned to face him. He didn't answer immediately. He simply shrugged. "Because I've been where you are. Maybe not in a wedding dress, but humiliated, angry, tired of pretending I was fine. And no one helped me. Not really." She nodded, too exhausted to say more. The moment her head hit the guest bed's pillow, she slept like she hadn't in weeks. The next few days passed in a haze. Ava wandered through the estate like a ghost, silent, floating, caught between heartbreak and healing. Dominic was never invasive. He kept his distance, but made sure she always had what she needed. Meals appeared at the door. A mug of tea arrived at dusk. Warm blankets found their way to the couch when she fell asleep in front of the fireplace. It was on the third day that she finally broke. She was standing in the garden behind the house, barefoot on the stone path, watching the late summer wind shake the lavender bushes. The sun warmed her shoulders. For a brief moment, she felt something like peace, until a bird chirped and a memory slammed into her. Brent's voice, laughing on her patio, mocking her for wanting a garden. "You're not the earthy type, babe," he had said. Tears welled up before she could stop them, and then she was sobbing, loud, ugly sobs she couldn't suppress. Her knees buckled, and she sank into the grass, hands pressed to her face. Dominic was there in seconds. She didn't know how he always sensed when she needed him, but he did. He crouched beside her, silent. "I feel so stupid," she choked. "I gave him everything. I thought if I just kept being good enough, maybe he'd stop looking through me." Dominic's voice was quiet but firm. "He looked through you because he didn't deserve to see you. That's not your fault. That's his failure." She looked up at him, mascara running down her cheeks. "Why do you care?" His jaw tensed slightly. "Because I know what it's like to be broken by someone who was supposed to care. Brent was my best friend once. And when he saw I had something he didn't, he destroyed it. Me. Our company. My name." Ava blinked. "You never told anyone your side." What would have been the point?" he said with a bitter half-smile. "The world wanted a villain. I let them have one." She studied him, the sharp angles of his face, the sadness in his eyes, the way he sat, always composed but never relaxed, like he was waiting for someone to stab him in the back again. They stayed there in the garden for a long time. By the end of the week, something had shifted. Ava began exploring the house, really exploring it. She found a massive library tucked behind a sliding panel, a piano covered in dust, a half-finished sculpture in a sunroom, This place was filled with pieces of a man who once dreamed of more than money and revenge. She asked him about it one night while they sat on the porch watching a storm roll in. "You're an artist," she said softly. "Or you were—" He glanced at her, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. "I used to be, before the business, before Brent, before it all got ugly. You could be again." He didn't answer, but he didn't deny it either. One night, they almost kissed. They had spent hours playing old records in his living room, drinking wine, talking about everything and nothing. Ava laughed more than she had in months. Her head was light, her heart lighter. When Dominic reached to brush a strand of hair from her face, their eyes locked. The air shifted. Her breath hitched as he leaned in, their faces only inches apart. But then he paused, his expression tightening. He pulled back gently. "You're not ready," he said quietly. Embarrassed, she looked away. "Right. Of course. I'm sorry." "No," he interrupted. "Don't apologize. I want you to be sure. I don't want to be a rebound or a rescue." She nodded, not trusting her voice. That night, she lay awake for hours, wondering if she'd made a mistake opening her heart too soon, or if he had already taken a piece of it with him. Want to continue with Section 3 next? Here is Section 3, Facing the Past, Choosing the Future, written with a minimum of 700 words as requested. Hashtag Section 3, Facing the Past, Choosing the Future. The city felt louder than Ava remembered. After nearly 2 weeks in the serenity of Dominic's estate, returning to the constant hum of traffic, the chatter of pedestrians, and the flash of headlines felt like walking into a war zone. Her face had been plastered across tabloids for days. Asterisk, runaway bride taken in by billionaire rival. Asterisk, complete with unflattering zoom shots and speculation that bordered on the ridiculous. But the worst part wasn't the attention. It was a message that popped up on her phone 2 days after she returned to her parents' place. "Brent, so this is who you really are?" One embarrassing moment, and you run into the arms of the man who hates me. Classy. Ava stared at the screen for a long time. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She didn't want to respond. She shouldn't respond. And yet, there was still a part of her, the part that had spent years seeking Brent's approval, that wanted to say something. Not to beg, not to explain, but to take back control. Dominic had advised her not to engage. Brent thrives on attention, even negative attention, he'd said. Silence is the only thing he can't spin. But Ava needed closure. She arranged to meet Brent in person. No cameras, no drama, just truth. They met in a coffee shop downtown. Ava arrived early, dressed simply in jeans and a navy blouse. No makeup, no performance. When Brent walked in, he looked exactly the same. Tailored suit, smug grin, not a hair out of place. But Ava saw something different now. He looked small. "Didn't think you'd actually show," he said, sliding into the booth across from her. "I almost didn't," Ava replied. "But I figure if I didn't say what I came to say, you'd think you still had power over me." He smirked. "You've changed." "No," she said calmly. "I just stopped shrinking." Brent leaned back, watching her. "So what's the story now? You and Dominic? Please. He's using you, same way he used me." "He's never lied to me," she said. "He never made me feel like I was lucky just to be chosen." Brent scoffed. I elevated you, Ava. You were nothing before me." A familiar ache twisted in her chest, but it passed quickly, like a ghost she no longer feared. "No," she said quietly. "You just convinced me I was. But the truth is, I was never yours to elevate. You didn't build me. You tried to break me. And I let you. That ends now." His face hardened. "You think Dominic's your savior? He's cold. He's calculated. He'll toss you out when he's bored." "He's careful," she said. "He thinks before he acts." "That's not cold. It's respectful." He gave me space. "You never did." Brent stared at her for a long time, then leaned forward, voice bitter. "You'll regret this." "No, Brent," she said, standing up. "I already regret wasting years thinking I had to earn your love." She left without another word. The air outside felt lighter. She didn't cry. She didn't shake. She didn't look back. Instead, she walked into the sunlight, feeling, for the first time in years, free. When she returned to Dominic's estate that evening, because yes, she'd gone back, and yes, he'd left the front gate open, he was waiting on the back deck, wine in hand, as if he knew she'd come. He looked up when she approached. "How'd it go?" he asked. I told him the truth. I told myself the truth. He nodded slowly. Good. They sat in silence for a while, watching the stars emerge. The silence between them was comfortable now, full of understanding. "I think I'm falling for you," she said finally. Dominic's hand clenched slightly around his glass. "Ava, you don't have to say anything," she added quickly. "I know I've been a mess, and I know we started in a weird place, but I'm not that broken girl in the wedding dress anymore." He turned toward her, eyes shadowed with something unspoken. "I care about you more than I know how to explain, but I'm not a safe bet either. I've built walls so high, I forgot how to let anyone in." She gave him a sad smile. "Then we'll learn together. I'm not looking for perfect, just real." That night, they didn't kiss. They didn't touch. They simply sat side by side, watching the sky, but it was more intimate than anything Ava had felt in years. Weeks passed. Ava moved into a small apartment in the city, determined to build something of her own. She launched her design business, starting small with custom invitations, stationery, and eventually interior consulting. Her first clients came through Dominic's connections, but she earned every project on merit. She and Dominic texted often, light flirtation, meaningful check-ins. But he didn't chase her, and she didn't beg him to. They were growing, separately, stronger. Months later, at her first local gallery showing, Ava walked into the small exhibit hall and froze. Every piece she'd submitted, every sketch, canvas, and installation had been purchased, all by the same anonymous buyer. She didn't need to ask who. She found Dominic standing quietly at the back, away from the crowd, dressed down in jeans and a gray blazer, hands in his pockets, looking like he didn't want credit. She marched straight to him. "Why did you buy all of them?" she asked. He looked down at her. "Because they were yours. Because they're brilliant. Because I wanted to see you win." She stared at him, heart pounding. "You could have just told me." "I thought this would say it better," he said. Then finally, after all those months of waiting, he added, "Ava, I'm in love with you." She didn't hesitate. "I know. I've been waiting for you to believe it. Let me know when you're ready for Section 4, the romantic payoff and resolution." "Absolutely. Here is Section 4, Love Without Conditions, the final part of the story, written with a minimum of 700 words to conclude the romantic arc of Ava and Dominic. Hashtag Section 4, Love Without Conditions." 3 months after the gallery showing, Ava was standing in her sun-drenched studio, barefoot and covered in streaks of watercolor. Her sketchpad rested on the work table before her, surrounded by scattered pens, swatches of fabric, and inspiration boards. Her business, **Avar Design Studio **, had officially taken off, and with it, a piece of her soul had come alive again. She still remembered the way Dominic had looked at her that night at the gallery, like he saw every fractured part of her and didn't mind the sharp edges. She remembered the way the words "I'm in love with you" had landed like a promise, not a gamble. Not like Brent's love, which always came with silent contracts and unspoken debts. This **, was different. They hadn't rushed into a relationship after that night. They were deliberate. They dated like grown-ups. Quiet dinners, thoughtful conversations, no performance, no games. Dominic insisted on keeping her professional life separate from his name, refusing to pull strings unless she asked. She never did. She didn't want to be the woman he saved. She wanted to be his equal, and she was. One weekend, they drove back up to the estate. It had become their place now. Her shoes beside us at the front door, her art hanging beside his old sketches, her favorite tea in the kitchen cabinet. They spent hours reading on the back deck, music playing softly in the background, their fingers brushing now and then, a comfortable quiet between them. No masks, no pretending. That night, after dinner, Dominic led her to the sunroom, the same one where Ava had first found his half-finished sculpture all those weeks ago. But it wasn't half-finished anymore. It was complete. A marble sculpture of a woman, elegant and strong, her face serene but powerful. She wasn't delicate or dainty. She was radiant and unmistakably modeled after Ava. Ava stepped toward it, breath caught in her throat. "You finished it," she whispered. "I started over," he said quietly, standing behind her. "The old one was incomplete. This one is real. She's who you are now, who you've always been." She turned toward him. Dominic, he held out a small velvet box, but when she opened it, there was no ring. Instead, inside was a tiny hand-carved key, delicate, made of cherry wood. Ava blinked. "What's this?" Dominic smiled. "To the studio I built for you. The North Wing. You'll find it behind the old bookshelf." She laughed, tears welling in her eyes. "You built me a studio?" He looked shy for the first time. "I didn't know how else to say I want you here. Always. That I want you to build your life not next to mine, but with mine." She stared at him, heart pounding. "So, no proposal?" "Oh, I'm proposing," he said, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a second box. "But not because I think it will complete you, or fix you, or save you. I'm proposing because I want to walk beside you. No conditions, no control, just partnership." He opened the box. The ring inside wasn't massive or flashy. It was simple. A rose gold band with pear-shaped sapphire, framed by 2 tiny diamonds. Elegant, modern, unmistakably her. He knelt, awkwardly, adorably, and looked up at her. "Ava Reed, will you build a life with me? Not a fairy tale. Just something real. Just us." Ava laughed through her tears, nodding before he could finish. "Yes. God, yes." He stood, slipping the ring onto her finger. They kissed, slow, deep, unhurried. Not a kiss that said finally, but a kiss that said we're just getting started. They didn't rush a wedding. They didn't even set a date right away. There were no over-the-top announcements, no viral posts, no glitzy engagement party. Ava didn't want her second time down the aisle to be about optics. This time, she wanted truth. A year later, they married in the very garden where Ava had broken down crying that first week, surrounded by lavender blooms and close friends. She wore a simple ivory dress, barefoot in the grass, her curls loose and wild. Dominic waited for her beneath a wooden arch he had carved himself. His vows were short, honest, and free of flair. "I didn't know how to love until I met you," he said. "And now I don't know how to be without you." Ava's vows were just as raw. "You didn't rescue me. You saw me, and because of that, I rescued myself." There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. Years later, when their daughter asked how they met, Ava would always pause and smile. "Well," she'd say, "I was supposed to marry someone else, but he left me at the altar. And your father?" He was sitting in the back row, probably planning a dramatic exit. Dominic would smirk. "I was absolutely planning a dramatic exit. But instead, Ava would say, pulling their child into her lap, he took me home, and not just to his house, but to a life I didn't even know I deserved." And that, their daughter would learn, was how love should be. Not rushed, not performative, not perfect, just real, steady, safe, love without conditions. Let me know if you like a full compiled version of all 4 sections or a formatted PDF of the complete story.